Amnesty International is calling on Eswatini authorities to drop all charges against members of Parliament Mduduzi, Bacede, Mabuza and Mthandeni, Dube. The organization also says the two should be immediately released. To get you more on this, I'm joined by Shenilla Mohamed, Executive Director of Amnesty International. Shenilla, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. So you call the arrests a travesty of justice. Why?
Well, good afternoon, Dudu, and good afternoon to your viewers. Well, the whole thing, as far as we're concerned, has been a travesty of justice since the peaceful protest started. And since May, Dudu, we know that at least 80 people have died in these protests. And of course, the two members of parliament, Mr. Dube and Mr. Mabuza, that you referred to, have been under arrest since the 25th of July with no real charges being laid against them. So as far as we're concerned, this is a travesty of justice, and really those MPs need to be released, and the Eswatini government has to start listening to what the people are demanding and not trying to quell their right to peaceful protests and deploying soldiers to try to further violate these rights. I think it's time that they stopped and they listened, and we try to find a solution that is going to safeguard the rights of the people of Eswatini.
In recent developments, we have found that school children were also arrested for joining the protest movements, right? So this is what the king of Eswatini has had to say, that he is not prepared to negotiate with, quote, dacha smokers and drunkards, referring to pro-democracy protesters. This kind of sentiment tells you what?
Well, it tells us that, you know, the king and potentially his government are not paying attention to what is happening. I mean, closing schools, shutting down the internet, referring to peaceful protesters as dacha smokers is not going to bring us to any peaceful solution. And these are just arbitrary acts that are in clear violation of human rights. So, you know, as far as we're concerned, nothing is going to be resolved by depriving people of their rights and, you know, including their right to education and the right to freedom of expression. So what we're calling for, and you can see by the king's response that he's not open to, is an urgently open dialogue with protesters, and the authorities need to stop crushing dissent. And we're hoping that this is what the SADC team that has been deployed will, be very clear about when talking to the authorities. We've also understood now that the king is willing to meet with the SADC team that has been deployed and the South African team that is being led by Minister Dube, and we're just hoping that there will be some result from that intervention, which will really be an open dialogue with the state listening to what the people are unhappy about and peaceful solutions being found. We cannot keep on going on like this, with people dying, with soldiers in the street, with protest actions, with children being arrested. It is untenable. It is just not an acceptable way to deal with the unhappiness that people have the right to show.
It was Bobby McFerrin who penned a song that freedom is a voice, and here are voices of dissent being crushed here. So when we look at the role of businesses in holding government to account, you speak of MTN, which had released a statement saying that MTN Eswatini, that would be saying along with other operators, they've received a directive from the Eswatini Communications Commission to suspend with immediate effect access to Facebook and Facebook Messenger until further notice. What role do private companies have in sovereign countries in ensuring that human rights are upheld?
Well, I think that, all private companies and corporates have a role to play in the upholding of basic human rights. And, what we're seeing with the shutdown of internet with social media pages is a violation of those rights. It's the violation of the right to expression, freedom of expression, the violation of the right to information, and a violation of people's right to protest. And so they, by doing this, are also culpable in the sense that they are are contributing to a violation of these rights. And I think, if corporates stood up a bit more and put lives over profit, we would start seeing the world becoming a better place. But, we've seen this in Eswatini, we see it with the COVID vaccinations, continuously do that. Corporates think that their only role in this world is to earn money. No, they are part of society, they are part of the solution, and they need to make themselves part of the solution. So what we're saying in Eswatini as well is corporates do need to step up and do need to stand up against violations of human rights. So MTN, for example, should not be adhering to this. It sounds like we're encouraging the breaking of the law, but actually, at the end of the day, everyone's rights need to be upheld, and corporates are violating rights when they are shutting down these spaces for the people of Eswatini, and so they should not be doing this, and that is our call to them, is that, uphold human rights. You have a responsibility as being part of the global world, as being part of the Eswatini community and society, to make sure that people's rights are not violated and that you are not contributing to the violation of those rights.
That then makes me wonder about the role of organizations such as yourself, Amnesty International, beyond condemnation, be it Eswatini, be it Zimbabwe, be it Sudan. What is it that your role is practically to implement change, or at least provide some sort of relief for people on the ground?
Well, first of all, we're not a frontline organization. There are many other organizations that do that, who, like Gift of the Givers, Oxfam, etc., that will provide, water, food, sanitation. We are not one of those. We are a legal organization. We deal with international law, with the legal aspects. What is our role? First of all, we are very active at the United Nations. We are very active at the Human Rights Council in Geneva, at the African Union, at other regional entities and bodies. And, again, our role is to work with other countries, work with other organizations to try to apply pressure for change. So, for example, we would lobby South Africa to, apply, to basically speak to the king in a way that, embraces, safety for all there and human rights. So I think, as a legal organization, that is what we do. There are times where we've also supported citizens to take legal action against states, to take legal action against organizations that are violating, or corporates that are violating human rights. So that is our role. We are a legal-based organization, and that is where we come in. We also gather evidence, and that evidence can be used in international criminal courts, in other international bodies and forums like the United Nations, but also in local countries where the courts are operating. We have often acted as an amicus, requested to be a friend of the court, and again, we have come in there to try to press for change in these countries. We also provide information to people on their rights and what they can do when their rights are violated. So that's a role that organizations like Amnesty play.
Shenilla Mohamed is the Executive Director of Amnesty International. Thank you for your time this afternoon.